Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Market Down podcast. We have the beauty and the beard. I'm not going to let you know which one is which. He is gone, so it's just now the beauty and the beard in one. Great, great timing. We had WWE's Clash at the Castle tonight They're in Cardiff, Wales. This was the first time WWE has run a premium live event in the UK in over 30 years. Nick, are you back? And he's muted. It's just this is what happens when we do it live at 4:30. It was a great show while we wait for Nick Maniotis, who's joining us today here on the pod. There's Nick.
Hey, there we go. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
For context, a cool little message showed up on my Zoom, and without paying attention to actually what it was, I went to go click it, and it shut the whole thing down. So
that's just how it goes.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
No one has ever said here at Market Down Podcast that we are professionals. We are a bunch of marks, and we are making it work.
We are absolutely.
Bear with us. We love you, and we appreciate the love you have for us. So, Nick, we're going to go in depth with the pay-per-view, but before we get into the details, tell me, what did you think of the event overall?
I think this was probably one of the better produced. I want to call it a pay-per-view, but I'm trying to think of what they call it now. A premium live event. Yep, that's it. There we go.
Get the lingo, man. Get the lingo. This is the Triple H era.
As a whole, I actually really liked it. I thought there were some really good parts. And then obviously there were some bits that just kind of deflated it, but we'll get to those parts.
I honestly completely agree. I think this was a very strong show from beginning to end. You know, we have our nitpicks, but that's what marks do. We bitch about things even when there's nothing really to bitch about. But to start the show out, we had a 6-woman tag between Damage Control, or as we like to call them here at the Market Down Podcast, Bayley and the Huggers. Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky versus Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss. I thought this was a fun match. It was, a little paint by numbers for me. Nothing too spectacular, nothing out of the ordinary, but a nice showing for all 6 women with Damage Control going over. Nick, what did you think of it? Did anything stand out to you?
It was a good match. I thought it did exactly what it needed to do.
Yes.
I think my issue with a lot of the multi-woman matches these days is I see a lot of the same spots.
Yeah.
A lot of the same big, double superplex off the turnbuckle, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of furthering the story, I thought it did a really good job. Bayley got the pin on Bianca.
On the Raw Women's Champion, Bianca Belair. Bianca's very protected, so this was an interesting 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So I guess we know who's going to challenge her next, which I'm excited for that.
No, I am too. I mean, I don't necessarily see Bayley being the person to take the title off Bianca, but this is a nice feud to carry things over as we inch closer to the road to WrestleMania. So, yeah, very interesting back and forth between these 6 women. I don't know where everyone else goes from here. The fact that there is no Raw women or no women's tag team titles involved now with the other women just sort of feels like Asuka, Alexa, and Dakota and Io are going to be sort of pushed to the side as we get to the Bianca Bayley feud. But good, fun little match to get the crowd warmed up. And I'm happy to see Bayley fitting back in right where she belongs at the top of the women's division. Any other last words before we move on to the next match?
Very upset that Sasha and Naomi did not show up.
I am too. But I think they're really saving them for when something big is coming. I think we're going to get them closer to WrestleMania. I feel like they're going to be competing for the tag titles at WrestleMania.
I would say Survivor Series is more likely.
But it's very possible. It's very possible.
I mean, I've heard, obviously I've just read that they're looking to bring him back any week now. So it could be way sooner than that. But
I've been hearing that from the moment Triple H took over. So while I don't deny that it's sooner than later, who knows at this point? Let's just throw it at the dartboard and see where it lands. But moving forward, we have our first championship match of the night, the Intercontinental Championship match, where Sheamus, with his Brawling Brutes, Ridge Holland, and Pete Dunne, because we don't call him Butch here on the podcast unless Danny is here, going for the final Infinity Stone in his gauntlet to become a Grand Slam champion, taking on the champion, a very dominant Gunther, surrounded by a full Imperium with Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. It's been a long time since we've seen the trio together. So this was a very exciting way to start off the bout. What did you think of that?
Marked out for Giovanni. I love them Imperium boys.
Me too.
I think that was a good call, and nothing against the Giovanni Vinci character that they were presenting in NXT.
Yeah,
I thought it was fun. I would have liked to have seen it on the main roster, but you know what? If you're gonna make Gunther a dominant champion, I think it's good to have them. Also, now you can maybe have him go up against Roman a little bit, and you could do the Bloodline and Imperium.
Definitely.
You said this earlier in our group. Maybe they bring Alexander Wolf back.
That would be fantastic.
And then now, you've got a four. Look, Survivor Series is coming up.
We can't really get into it yet. We don't want to jump ahead of ourselves as we talk about the main event.
You're
but
right,
the numbers game is definitely going to be a little more even if they decide to go in that direction. But getting to the match itself, this was the longest match of the night, nearing 20 minutes. And this was 20 minutes of two big meaty men slapping each other's meat. The way I love it here at the Mark It Down podcast. I am who I am, except me, please. But we saw Gunther take it to Sheamus in a way I've never seen Sheamus have it brought to him. This was a brutal fight. This was two men who were beating the crap out of each other. And I'm not used to seeing Sheamus almost feel like the underdog in a match, but he certainly was here. Gunther taking the win after two brutal power bombs and a vicious lariat. I love this match. It might have been my favorite match of the night. Any thoughts? What did you think of it? Any spots stand out? Tell me what you thought. Geek out with me.
I think it was also my favorite match of the night. I noticed Sheamus pulled out a lot of moves that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yes, the Celtic Cross was amazing.
He made this match feel important to him. And Sheamus has, and I'm sorry to say it, Sheamus has never done that in his career before. And I don't want to say that's a fault of his own, because I've been a huge Sheamus fan for years. I've always thought he was great, even especially in his time in the bar. Yeah, he's never been inherently interesting, but like I've always been excited to watch a Sheamus match because I know it's going to be physical. And I knew as soon as they booked this match, I was like, this is going to be hard hitting. And I think within the first 30 seconds, both of them had just red welts all over their body.
They really did.
Yeah.
Sheamus is always bruised like a peach. It's not his fault. He can't help it. But man, when this man has been in a fight. And when you're going in a match with Gunther, it's going to be a fight.
I would say another physical match, like one dream booking I would want for Sheamus is Roddy. And I know that sounds weird.
It's so mean is what it is. But you want this man to be covered in welts. Yeah,
Roddy has I've seen some nasty bodies just from his chops. That is what I want.
And then you could have the Brawling Brutes versus Diamond Mine if we ever get there.
Yeah.
If we ever get there. But yeah, fun match, lots of brutality, fighting on the outside, taking it to each other. I would love to see this go to a series at some point. I would love the eventual rematch, and it cannot happen fast enough. But Gunther, in my opinion, rightfully getting the win. As much as I wanted to see Sheamus get his Intercontinental title reign out, I think Gunther needs to just continue building up his reign to make him feel like a bigger deal. And this was, I think, his first real defense on pay-per-view or premium live event. So it would have felt weird to see him take the loss here.
And I will say, it now makes that story of Sheamus wanting that last championship more interesting.
Absolutely. If he got it on his first real try at it, it would have been a little too quick.
Yeah, but now it's kind of like, well, you have that story. Everyone loves the story of like that, like chasing the championship.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
You know,
and inadvertently, they might be turning Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes into baby faces here.
Yeah. Maybe we get Pete Dunne back.
I mean, the seeds have already been planted. The gear has changed. Step by step, I think Papa H is going to slowly revert his boys to the way he liked them when he was playing with them in NXT.
Although I will say, I did like his gear on Friday.
I did. I thought it was a nice little mix.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice little mix.
Yeah.
But, we shall see what comes from that. Moving on to our next title match, we had the scrappy little underdog, Liv Morgan, as they love to call her, defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Shayna Baszler. This was a match that I gotta say, I liked a lot more than I thought I would. I've been very vocal about the fact that I'm not thrilled that they just keep booking Liv as this underdog champion. I get it. That's how she got her way to the title in the first place, with Money in the Bank and having to defend against Ronda Rousey. I totally understand that. But it comes to a point where you start to question, why is this person champion if all she is an underdog? But this match played into that very well and very smartly, in my opinion, where you see Liv quickly trying to get the pin on Shayna multiple times, quickly trying to counter anything that Shayna was throwing at her. It didn't make Shayna Baszler look any less dominant. All it did, in my opinion, was make Liv Morgan seem like a smarter, competent champion than we've had the opportunity to see in the past. Liv Morgan getting the win at the end of the match, not with a roll-up, but with a nice 1-2 combo of a code breaker into her finisher. This was a very fun match. I thought both women told a very interesting story, with Liv selling her injured arm that Shayna gave to her in the build up to this feud. Nick, what did you think of the match? What did you think of anything I've said? Anything you want to add? What stood out to you?
So, admittedly, this was part of the pay-per-view where I my stream was, I was also in the middle of work while this is happening, because unfortunately the pay-per-view was
at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. Thank you, WWE, because we don't have anything else going on here at the Mark It Down podcast.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't be upset with them, because what are the people in the United Kingdom supposed to watch a pay-per-view at 2 o'clock?
I'm gonna say something controversial. I don't give a shit. I'm the one who's here watching. They get to be there and enjoy it. I'm here watching it on TV. They can make do with whatever time they need to make it, while I get to be convenienced. That is the American way.
That's why the pay-per-view was in the UK.
Exactly.
That's why we didn't get it, James. Thanks. So unfortunately, I was at work in the middle of this. So between that and my stream freezing a couple of times, I did unfortunately miss most of the match. I would get flashes. And from what I saw, it looked clean. It didn't look too sloppy. I've seen some sloppy Liv matches.
No, never say that about any member of the Riot Squad ever again, especially Sarah Logan.
Sarah Logan was too good to be in the position that she was in, and I will die on that hill.
I would love to see that. I would love to see any example of that, but we do not have time to get into an hour-long debate about someone who isn't on any roster wrestling anywhere. But yeah, you are right. This was a very crisp match between these two stars, and I'm very glad to see Liv get the win. I hope it continues. I hope that they slowly move her away from the underdog champion moniker that they've stuck her with, and I think this was a good first step in moving her away from that. This wasn't a she got it from the seat of her pants kind of win. This was I got a 1-2-3 in the middle of the ring with my finisher because I was smart in how I took on my opponent. So congratulations to Liv Morgan. More to come, God willing. Moving on, we had a match that I feel this feud has been going on for 76 years or so, but we had Edge and Rey Mysterio, accompanied by Dominic Mysterio, taking on the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, accompanied by Rhea Ripley. There was a lot of story to go with this match. A lot of anticipation and a lot of, let's just say, everyone sort of had a preconceived notion as to how this match was going to go. I will say before we even get into the match and what followed, I am so happy at the response Edge got in the UK. They treated him like a returning hero. I don't know if they realize he's Canadian, but it was a great response to the Rated R superstar, who we don't know if he'll ever compete in the UK ever again. So this was a nice touching moment that WWE allowed to continue. They didn't play anybody's music. They didn't rush the moment. They allowed Edge to just bask in the glory of this crowd. So really appreciate how that was handled. Edge coming out with a weird devil.
We need to talk about the mask.
I don't understand it. I loved it. I loved it, especially because he did not wrestle in this mask. He used it just for the entrance. He and Ray coming out in like matching devil gear. So it was cool. It was cool. It was just so random.
I think my issue with the mask was not the design, but how it sat on his face, and it looked like it was just like off center on his face, and it just looked like it was Edge in like a Halloween luchador mask. Like it didn't.
It really did. It really did. Like this felt like I need a mask. Let's just make it work somehow.
Right.
And Edge has a very long face. So I get it being a little bit harder to get a working mask for the man, but I appreciate the effort from this man who continues to try to surprise us with his entrances. But moving to the match itself, we got another Judgment Day loss, with Finn Balor specifically taking the pin. I gotta tell you, Nick, I'm getting really sick and tired of Finn Balor looking like a jabroni in this company.
Yeah.
I am all for Finn Balor being there to help elevate Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. He is the veteran who should be helping the younger talent get over, but there comes a point where you're just burying him, and that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. This match had a lot of interference from Dominic Mysterio, helping his father, helping Edge overcome the odds, I guess. I don't know. The story going into this match was Rey Mysterio chose Edge to be his partner because he needed the veteran mindset. He needed the veteran ability, and his son was slightly disappointed. And Dominic proved throughout the match how much he was helping and allowing them to take the win over Judgment Day, who, if I'm not mistaken, did not really cheat at all in this match. I don't really think Rhea Ripley got involved at all.
Rhea only got involved after Dominic got involved. So like exactly. Dominic, made it a point to get in the ring to distract the ref, and then she would come and beat him up. And she took a bump in the match too.
She did a fun bump, a fun, safe bump that I liked.
And it's funny because I was sitting there watching it going, like I wonder if Rhea like takes a bump in this at all, because like who hits her? And then as soon as I had that thought, they did the suicide dive, and
Rhea Ripley carrying Dominic Mysterio like her little toy that she's been treating him as all these weeks. Rey Mysterio diving through the ropes to protect his ungrateful bastard. We'll get to that in a second. And fun spot. I'm hoping we get to see. I don't necessarily need to see a lot of intergender wrestling, but I don't like this idea that women can't touch men and men can't touch women.
Right.
There should be a time and a place for it, in my opinion. I think this was a good example of it, and I'm still waiting to see Rhea interject more. But this was a nice start to that, to maybe, dip their feet in the water to see how people respond to it. And I personally enjoyed it a whole lot. Following the match, where Finn Balor, just keeps getting the dirt buried on top of him, Edge, Rey Mysterio, and Dominic are celebrating in the middle of the ring, hugging, basking in their victory, when Dominic Mysterio kicks Edge in his little Adam Copeland's, or you know what, let's just call them his little Christians. And Rey Mysterio, confused, pushes his son, begging him, please, por favor, please, son, why are you doing his words? I didn't just say it. He actually, I heard it, por favor. And Dominic clotheslining his dad's head off in what was a predictable but weirdly done turn. We see Judgment Day celebrating and cheering Dominic on as he's doing what he's doing, but Dominic does not immediately, it seems, join Judgment Day. He rips off his Mysterio shirt, walks up the ramp, seems very angry, seems very aggressive, but he's on his own. Rey Mysterio pleads with Edge for forgiveness. Edge and Rey hug it out in the middle of the ring, and that's the segment. So let me just say, it's a long time coming that Dominic betrays his father. I feel like they've been building this for like a year and a half. It does not make sense that Dominic Mysterio fought as hard as he did to get his dad and Edge the win, to then just turn on them. We discussed it privately in our little text chat here at the Mark It Down podcast, that maybe this would make sense if Dominic does not indeed join Judgment Day. And maybe he was just trying to prove to his father that, hey, we could have won if this was with me. But the logic still doesn't really stand there. I would have cost my dad the match, still messed with Judgment Day. None of this really landed with me, and something that I've been anticipating for a long time. Nick, what did you think of the turn? What did you think of the match? What did you think of all of it?
Match itself, I guess we'll start with that. Was fine. It's fine. I mean,
yeah,
everyone in the ring there is great, but and like you said, they always make Finn Balor look like a jabroni.
That they do.
And I think he realizes that. And when that happens, I see him just get very uninspired in his matches. And I see him just kind of go through the motions. And as someone who's a big Finn Balor fan, I hate to just watch this like, why am I in this position? You know?
It's rough to see somebody so talented not being given his due. Right. Finn isn't the youngest guy on the roster anymore, but he's still in amazing shape, and he can still go. He still has a lot to offer this company and this industry. And the truth is, while he is a former Universal Champion, the first Universal Champion, he never got to be a champion. Yes, NXT champion, had a great run in NXT, but the main roster has never seen Finn truly compete at an elite level. And I feel like with each match, we're getting further and further away from that opportunity. And I'm not saying I want him to jump ship. I'm not saying I want him to go anywhere, but there does at the very least need to be some change. But I will say this match did do a lot for me. While Finn Balor did seem very uninspired throughout this match, I love Damian Priest's selling in this match.
I was going to say, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were the unsung heroes of this match.
Absolutely. It was obvious from day one, when Judgment Day was formed under Edge, actually, the former leader of the group, that this was about elevating Priest and Ripley. But due to all these losses under the new Judgment Day with Finn Balor, it's hard to see them getting that elevation. It's hard to see them progressing. But the truth is, we're seeing so much personality come out from these two talents. a lot of charisma, in my opinion. Something as simple as Damian Priest being dropped on his little Christians as well, and then selling that like a Looney Tune character was hilarious to me. So I hope that despite the losses, despite the poor direction, we do continue to see Priest and Ripley develop into genuine stars, genuine main event one day talent. Anything you want to add? Oh, go ahead. Please.
Do you think they play into that going forward? Maybe Priest and Ripley kind of start going, like, we turned on Edge and hasn't really been working in our favor.
I think if they continue to book them as, sorry to say it, losers, I think it's probably inevitable. But one thing to consider is,
although I would say Rhea's probably coming out looking the best in this entire scenario.
Oh, she absolutely is. But the thing to remember is she hasn't really wrestled much because she has mostly been playing heater to Finn and Priest. People are really loving the memes of her. People are loving her basically being daddy to Dominic Mysterio, and that's great. But you can only take that so far before you decide she needs to be the centerpiece of this group, which I think we're all ready for that to be.
Yes.
But so far, nothing. So far, this has been about Finn and Priest and their feud with the Mysterios, their feud with Edge. And until she's ready to go for the title, I think that's going to continue. So I would much rather see them pivot than replace Finn, just because this group has already gone through so much turnaround. And at this point, I don't know who could take Finn's place, because I don't think Priest and Ripley on their own really feel like a strong enough unit.
Well, so I wouldn't even have them stay together. I would just split them up again and have them go back to being, maybe singles competitors.
I think that'll be the case eventually. I think there's too much money in this group that they just haven't figured out how to make it click yet. I think there is something special with a bunch of guys backing up Rhea Ripley. It's different because of how talented she is and just how the dynamic was back in the 90s. But I'm getting Chyna with Shawn and Triple H vibes.
Feels very much like modern day Basham Brothers.
I am so mad at you for making me think of Finn Balor and Damian Priest in gimp masks and black leather. And, I remember the Bashams very well.
What was her name? Was it Shaniqua?
I think so.
I think it was
the less we talk about it, the better. I don't want to think about that time period. Oh, God, SmackDown. But anyway,
I may have single-handedly spoke gimp masks on Finn Balor and Damian Priest into existence.
And I wanted the gimp mask on Dominic. Today did not go the way I expected.
We are in for a weird episode of Raw tomorrow.
Danny, you could have fun with that if you're watching. Good luck. But yeah, no matter what, there needs to be some pivoting when it comes to Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio is in the process of his own pivot away from his father. So it seems like this storyline is ending and we're going to be moving into different directions for everybody involved for the most part, but time will tell. Moving on to what was probably the biggest grudge match of the night. And that I'm saying that over a storyline where a son took his dad's head off with a clothesline, but we had Seth freaking Rollins taking on Riddle with his first name back, Matt Riddle, in what was a very fun back and forth that to me didn't really pick up until the back half. Now, Nick, you told me you didn't really get to see this match as you were coming home.
I saw the beginning and then it just I was on the train the entirety of it.
I understand. I will say you didn't miss too much, at least in the first half. The back end of the match, really playing into the psychology of the match, where Seth Rollins is doing everything he can to get into Matt's head, goading him about his family, using Randy Orton's moves against Riddle. It was a masterclass of a heel manipulating a babyface, where Matt Riddle loses it, just starts beating down on Seth with elbows and punches, taking him outside the ring and attempting to hit him with a chair. Seth gets back in the ring. Riddle tries to follow. Boom, curb stomp. Doesn't quite put the man away. So how does Seth follow up? With a curb stomp from the second rope. I don't think we've ever seen that before from Seth. It was a very interesting super finisher, in a way still protecting Riddle, but it's tough to watch this match as both Riddle and Seth needed wins and neither could afford another major loss. So Nick, I know you didn't get to see it, but having heard what I told you, what do you think?
So it's interesting because now that I think about it, Seth absolutely could not lose again.
No,
I'm very, very glad that they chose for him to win. Riddle has, he's lost as many matches as he's lost, but Riddle's also not on the same main event level as Seth Rollins.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Now that here, as I was getting to, I think this feud pushes him closer to that level.
Now, do you think this feud with him winning would have pushed him even further? Because I think so.
I think if they do a rematch, so it's tough because I want to see him kind of struggle with this a little bit. The fact that he couldn't get the job done, for Randy or whatever, and maybe Randy's the one that's got to kind of talk some sense into him and get him to get to that next level and stop fooling around and be Matt Riddle, the former UFC fighter, the fucking badass wrestler that he is. Because you see flashes of it, but I really want to see him just get to that next level. And I think this could be a good feud to do it.
I think so too. We talked about neither man really being able to afford a loss and the different levels they're at. And it's true. Seth Rollins has lost major feuds, long running feuds now with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns almost back to back. This feud with Matt Riddle will definitely propel him back into the title picture, where it seems like he is destined to clash with Roman Reigns once more. And Riddle might have to do some soul searching. We've already seen different sides of Riddle now in this feud. We've seen him get a little more serious, get a little more angry. He's not just broing anymore. So it'll be very interesting to see how he moves forward. I do agree Seth needed the win more than Matt did. It's tough to see this rising babyface keep getting hit with the stop and go. But yeah, fun match that I don't think really picked up until later on, but brilliant psychology, brilliant back and forth. And I know you talked about a rubber match. I don't want to see these guys interact again for a very long time. This feud has gone on for a while now. It started before SummerSlam. We didn't get the match there. Now we got it here at Clash. So I'd say it's been going on for roughly 2 months. I'm good. I think
we can maybe get one more match out of it.
Maybe we can, but if you 50,
so what's the next what do we get next?
Next match after that?
Well, no, what's next premium live event?
Premium live event after Clash at the Castle. That's a great question.
October, is it Hell in a Cell?
We have Extreme Rules.
I think that would work.
It would, but what do you gain from it? Because if Riddle wins, you have 50-50 booking. No one really looks great in the process. No one ever loves 50-50 booking. And if Seth beats Riddle again, you're not really elevating Seth anymore. All you're doing is pushing Riddle further down the card. So for me, I think this needs to be the end for the foreseeable future. I'm not saying I never want to see them wrestle again, but maybe the next time they do go at it, they go at it for the title. Maybe a heel champion Seth Rollins defending against the babyface Riddle. That's when Riddle finally ascends to the main event. Time will tell. We're marks. We're just fantasy booking. That's what we do here. Until WWE or AEW decides to pay me, all I can do is let my brilliance flow out on the internet for all of you. But if we have nothing else to say about this match, it is time for the main event.
Thank you, Mark.
Why, thank you. We had the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, defending those 2 belts, and I could say belts because Vince McMahon is gone, against Drew McIntyre in a heated back and forth. I said before that Sheamus versus Gunther was the longest match of the night. I meant to say that was the longest match of the night, sans the main event. This match went a solid half hour. And I love the match for the most part. I thought it was an excellent back and forth between the irresistible force that was Drew McIntyre and the immovable object that is Roman Reigns in this title reign. Now, WWE and commentary had gone on ad nauseum about how Roman Reigns was here tonight, sans the bloodline. No Paul Heyman. We haven't seen him since the Brock Lesnar match where he got F5 through the table. No Usos, no Sami Zayn. They got laid out by Drew McIntyre on SmackDown last night. This was Roman Reigns coming into this battle alone. And how would that affect the champion of now 2 years? After going at it for a half hour in which we saw spears, in which we saw Superman punches, in which we saw headbutts, in which we saw claymores, in which we saw barricades being broken, the finals come down to interference from somebody fucking else. Solo Sikoa. Did I say that right? Or
Sikoa.
Solo Sikoa. Another member of this friggin' family, the Usos' younger brother, NXT star, grabbed Drew's leg after he attempts to hit another Claymore on Roman, get distracted, and then a spear by Roman for the 1, 2, 3. And let's not forget, in the back end of the match, Austin Theory, yes, his name is Austin again, coming down with the Money in the Bank briefcase, attempting to cash in, only to get his soul knocked out of him by boxing champion Tyson Fury. That was the cleanest punch I've seen in wrestling in a long, long time. I'm sure we'll see Theory once he clears whatever concussion protocol he's going to have to after that punch. I am a Roman Reigns fan, Nick. I've been open with you about that. Everyone here on the pod knows that. I love Roman. I've been a fan of him since he's carried the Shield on his back. I don't care. I'm going to keep saying it. The Shield was for him. I love Roman, and I am so done with this title reign. I am so ready for whatever the next phase is. I was ready for Drew McIntyre, who came out to Broken Dreams, win this title in the UK and have the hero's moment that he deserves. He never got to be champion in front of a crowd. He was champion during the entirety of the pandemic. And it just feels like they are building this championship reign up to something that whoever does take the title off Roman, our beautiful podmate Danny said it best. The longer this reign goes, the more disappointing the end is going to feel at this point. So I spoke a lot. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your thoughts on the match, on the booking decisions. Did you think this was overbooked? Did you think the match was good? Are you happy with the decision? Do you want to move forward? Tell me what you got.
I think you and I are on the same page with this. I do really like Roman Reigns. I think in the last 2 years, he is probably the most improved wrestler. And I can say wrestler now.
That you can.
Because Vince McMahon isn't here. He is the most improved wrestler out of any promotion.
I'd agree. At his level, I would agree. At his level, I would agree. Like, yes. It's not fair to compare him to a rookie who's rising in the ranks. But
sure, I'm not thinking of like a Wheeler Yuta or something like that.
Fair enough.
At his level, he is the most improved wrestler in the last 2 years. But I am so tired of him. I'm so tired of the same matches at every event. Oh, and they're not. I don't want to say they're overbooked because this wasn't necessarily overbooked. I think it was
not as much. They
hammed it up. They hammed it up, but I think it needed to be.
Yeah.
Because this match was special, and I think to me, this main event felt like the biggest main event maybe since Cena and the Rocket Mania.
That is wow. So you're saying since WrestleMania 29, this was the biggest main event.
I think so.
That is our clip that we're going to be putting on social media. Be ready for it. Be ready for a response. Wow. I don't know if I'm going to argue with you. I don't know that I agree, but it did have that big fight feel. It did have that big fight feel considering the crowd.
Maybe Bryan winning the championship at 30 may be the last one. But around that time period, I don't think I had been this, like, I don't think the world has been as excited for a main event.
Unless your name is Eric Grisanti, in which case he was dreading this match.
Anything. I've never seen that man enjoy wrestling a day in his life.
Me neither. But interesting. So you think this was the biggest match in roughly a decade?
Yes.
Big fight feel to it, and you didn't think it was too overbooked considering the circumstances. Are you happy with Roman retaining, or what comes next in your mind?
I was really excited to see the finish, and I was really excited to watch Drew get his moment because, like you said, he never got it.
Yeah.
I think the crowd was white hot for him the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's good to know that the UK still hates Roman Reigns.
There are some universal constants out there. Yes. This is one of them.
But the finish, like I said, cool. Solo Sikoa is here. Whatever. But just God, I want it to be over.
Me too.
I want it,
In my mind, moving forward, I one of the prevailing thoughts is don't take the title off Roman until there is someone big enough to take the title off of him. I understand that notion, but no one is going to feel big enough until they are champion. Everyone is going to feel the same. We've seen Kevin Owens. We've seen Finn Balor. We've seen, it wasn't a title match, but we've seen Big E. We've seen Drew now several times. We have seen Brock Lesnar. We have seen Seth Rollins. So many stars have taken Edge, Daniel Bryan Danielson. Matt Riddle has gone against him, and he was hot for a while.
Yeah, he was.
We have seen so many popular over stars take on Roman Reigns and fail. And once upon a time, that was okay because they were building to an epic reign for Roman. But for me, the problem arises now. There is nobody that they can build in a short amount of time who is going to feel believable. I love Johnny Gargano. If he's the guy to beat Roman, I'm going to need a hell of a reason as to how he did it.
Yeah.
If Austin Theory cashes in Money in the Bank, it's not going to feel satisfying because it's been such a big build to see who's going to be the star who does it. And I like Theory. It's just he's not there.
It's not his time.
It's not. So that leaves us essentially now with two options. We have a returning Cody Rhodes, who, granted, when that match happens, is going to feel like a mega event.
Yes.
Or The Rock. And I will smell what The Rock is cooking all day, all night, twice on Sunday. But if The Rock is the person to dethrone Roman Reigns, which I'm not saying he will be, I don't think that's the route they're going to go. What was the point of any of this? There was no point. And even if The Rock loses and it's still a title match, that is not a match that needs the title. Just like Cena Rock 2 did not need the title, even though I'm glad that it did, it does not need the title. Roman versus The Rock is a big enough match on its own. So I'm left more frustrated than anything. And maybe I'm supposed to feel frustrated. Maybe that was the feeling I was supposed to be left with as Roman Reigns once again finds his way out of the arena with his belts. But every match has been with him cheating. He does not feel like the dominant champion they're booking him as. He feels like a guy who has needed every advantage to win. And I don't know if we're going to remember that about his reign in 10 years or in 15 years or however long, but I can tell you right now, this reign does not feel special. It just feels long. At least to me. I would love to hear what you have to say, but yeah, I am not done, but I am tired.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. Is it's just 2 years is a long time. 2 years is a long time, and especially after the world went through a major pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
You just want something good. You just want, and it's wrestling was huge for us because they were still working. Wrestlers were still working, so it really made Drew that much more important to me.
I agree,
because he was the unsung hero of that entire bad time.
I completely agree.
He really deserved tonight. This was the perfect opportunity, and they just couldn't do it. And I get it. You keep the reign going, but even then, it's like, okay, if it's Cody, great. An AEW guy had to come over and beat your world champion.
Thank you. I completely agree. Completely agree.
And I get it. It's Cody. Cody's got a great story.
He does. He does. He admittedly does.
Champion, but God, Drew really should have won. And
I agree.
It made me not care about Solo Sikoa's debut, which I really like him.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree. Totally agree.
And I was kind of hoping that he would have come up and not joined the Bloodline immediately.
I was hoping that we would see him be a little more adversarial with the Bloodline.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we would see this young buck maybe trying to challenge Roman a little bit.
Maybe be a little upset with them because they didn't immediately need him.
I agree.
But
yeah.
And now I just don't care.
I agree.
It really
he feels like the third Uso.
Yeah.
He feels like the sixth most important person in the group, in a group that Sami Zayn and Paul Heyman aren't even blood related.
Right.
So time will tell. I don't want to be too negative on him because this was a position that he was put into, and we haven't. Nothing has come from him yet. I want to give him a fresh slate, but a weird way to debut him, or I should say a predictable way to debut him. But yeah, I'm very ready. To me, wrestling is about moments. It's not always about the wins. It's not always about the losses, but wrestling is about moments and feelings. I don't think they could have generated a more positive, excited feel than to have Drew McIntyre win in front of 60,000 fans who were very alive tonight. I got to give it to the crowd in Wales, in Cardiff. They were explosive from the get-go. Bailey with the hey Bailey chant, that was great. Constantly singing sex music throughout the match. I didn't get to tell you that there was not a moment of that match where they weren't singing his song. The crowd was explosive, and they deserve to have been rewarded after 30 years of not having a premium live event or pay-per-view or whatever the fuck we want to call it. And on a show that only had 5 or 6 matches on the main card, not one title change, nothing of note happened at this event other than Dominic Mysterio turning on his dad. That is the only status quo changer in this entire show. Maybe Solo being a part of the Bloodline is something, but that's just an addition. It's not a change.
Yeah.
So
congratulations, Fabian Eichner. You got
right, there you go.
Head.
you got added back to the group that you shouldn't have ever been tossed out of in the first place. God bless. So I know I'm coming across as negative. I don't want to. This was an otherwise exceptional show, in my opinion, with great wrestling, great story moments, and just great moments overall. I am just a little bit sour on the main event, and I feel like this was a wasted, missed opportunity. But Great show. I hope we see WWE back in the UK sooner than later. Nick, do you have any thoughts on the rest of the show? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to tell me I'm wrong about, even though I'm going to immediately tell you how dare you?
I think one thing we missed, Damage Control has new music.
That is true. Damage Control has new music. They feel more cohesive now. They feel a little more,
I'm also curious.
A real group.
I'm also curious. So just kind of switching gears to 2.0, they lost two of their kind of bigger names.
It's true.
So I wonder who the replacement people will be on that.
I mean, the reality is with this new NXT 2.0.5, I don't know. They are going to be in their own transitional period the same way the main roster is. So this developmental brand is definitely feeling more like developmental than they ever have in a very, very long time. So Solo, he was in NXT because he needed to go through the process, but he felt ready to leave NXT almost the moment he was there, in my opinion. Aichner, the moment the rest of Imperium went up, he should have as well. And nothing against him, but I don't think he was adding all that much to NXT 2.0. Solo, you could say, is an actual loss for the brand, but
although I will say there wasn't a lot of time for him down there, at least on his own.
No, I totally agree. It's not Aichner's fault, but given the nature of what that brand is, and given the nature of how it's progressing and it's changing, you don't need to have a guy who's essentially a statesman still finding his way down there. He works in Imperium. Imperium works better with him. It works better as a bigger group. I'm glad he is now where he is. Hopefully this wasn't just a one-off. Hopefully come SmackDown next week, we will see him with the rest of the group.
I agree.
So yes, this was a very interesting event. A lot of newness and a lot of sameness, but overall good wrestling.
Yes, that is
good wrestling.
That is the one thing I will say for the night is overall good wrestling.
Hell yeah. So if you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to take us home. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, ladies and gentlethems, this has been another Mark It Down podcast presentation. This isn't a castle, but it feels like a stronghold. We love having you guys here. Once again, thank you for 100 subscribers. If I had confetti, it would be dropping right now. We will be going live again tomorrow as at the very least, AEW is putting out their show All Out. That will be at regular pay-per-view times. So be prepared for a late Sunday night, and we will likely be going live for Worlds Collide. We'll keep you posted. But this has been a fun show. Thank you for joining Beauty and the Beard. And you know what? I'm just going to say it, Nick, you're the beauty. This has been a great show. Thank you for joining me. Guys, always a pleasure. I'm James Gisanti, and don't forget to mark it down.